I wonder how you're balancing customer expectations. I get a little shiver with some of them thinking, you know, we invite them in and they say, we really have to have this, and you're thinking, holy crap, this will take 7 years, you know.
Yeah.
How do you sort of set the expectations for those meetings?
Yeah, so those meetings, those innovation sessions, for those that might not have heard the first part of the question, you know, how we run them is as discovery sessions. So it's not a sit and vent for the clients. They're not sitting there and telling us, like, here's my laundry list of features that I would like. You know, instead, we run it as a product discovery session. So whether myself or one of my product leaders or product managers, they'll come in and they'll say, okay, here's the theme. And we'll do, you know, sticky note sessions, and like we run them as a workshop. There's no time. We make sure to not give the clients time to give us a laundry list. And then post those sessions, you know, we are doing regular communications back out to the attendees so that they're seeing progress. Like, you gave us this feedback, here's how that has impacted our process. You know, here's some things that have released in accordance to those themes that we talked about. And that's just as important as the session itself. So,
do you all pick a council, you know, once a year, or how do you, okay.
Yeah, our councils, they last for a year, and they're hand-selected. So everyone wants to be on the council. You know, as we go through the sales process, I don't consider a deal as truly closed until that admin asks me to be on the product council, because they have a lot of great ideas. Instead, I rely on our client experience team to identify clients that they think have, you know, really great product vision and can enable us to make a better product. And those are the people that we'll invite to be on the council, and that switches every year.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Question right here.
Thank you. One of the things we struggle with is communicating roadmap strategy, product strategy to our customers outside of councils and so on. So I'm interested in your feedback, and this is to be anybody on the panel. How do you leverage customer success to communicate that? Or is it marketing function, or is it a product function, or all of the above, but the calls come into customer success, or the customer success is talking to the customers every day? I'm interested in your feedback on that.
Yeah. I'll start, because product roadmaps like my baby. But how we do it in various ways. You know, first is that the client experience team has understanding of the vision. You know, so that's what I would consider my job, is to make sure that everyone within the company understands and can speak to the product vision. You know, details of the roadmap probably don't need to know, but what they do need to know is, here's the direction that we're headed and why, so that when they're having those discussions with partners, they can speak to, okay, that's great that you have that need. Like, does it align to our strategy? And if so, I'm going to go talk to product about it. You know, so I'm hoping to enable everyone to speak to vision, but then we have various ways that we communicate that out. You know, our product marketing team does webinars. We'll invite client experience onto those webinars, and we have those probably weekly. I think it was Bezos that said, like, I say the same thing 1 million times and I still haven't said it enough, you know, and that's really what we think of when we think of product strategy, is everyone should be saying the same things over and over and over in as many channels as they can.
Mitch, you own product too. What's your take on that?
So we've got an online community site that is maintained by the product department. They put the product roadmap out there. It's at a thematic level, so you don't get super way down into the weeds on the details. But it communicates out what we're working on currently. And then there are also links to areas where customers can collaborate or ask questions. And the product managers directly engage with customers in that community. We feel strongly there's an acronym, NIHITO, right? Nothing important happens in the office. The idea that product managers need to be out talking to people, right? Interfacing with customers. Now, they can't always be out, but through that online community, they can be interacting and understanding if we are hitting the mark or not.
Who else has a question? Any more? Okay, back here.
Hi, my question is actually for Rose. So we're going through a transition. We're a 35-year-old established company, typical sales and marketing, and we're kind of empowering client success now and trying to take on that ownership of the client within client success. And it has been challenging, to say the least, to make that shift from sales, owning the customer, over onto client success. And so I'm interested in any advice or insights you might have.
Yeah, sure. So can I ask a couple more questions and then I'll jump into it? So the customers now, are they owning a revenue target also? So are sales being relieved of a revenue target, and these individuals now own a revenue target for customer success?
We're trying to work through that right now. Yes, sales does own the revenue target, but we are also compensating our client success representatives for kind of retention expansion and overall account health as well.
Okay. Is that what they were hired to do?
Not initially. We are bringing in some net new resources to help in that effort, as well as taking existing resources and training them up as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because when you're trying to, I mean, a 35-year-old company, trying to shift them from having worked in what they were hired to do, and now you're trying to shift that is hard, right? When I've seen that be successful is if we're really empowering them, right, compensating them, and you're going to have to give them a lot of training, right? Because it's just not, it's hard going against what your grain is or what you know in nature, right? I think Mitch and Kareen talked about that today, which is there's some people's like, she's like, that's my guy. Like, there's just something about them that that might not be in them, right? But so you're going to have to give them the training to accomplish that. If they know they're on that journey and you're positioning as in they're developing skills and you're going to empower them, that's the only way I think you'll be able to accomplish that. And then have the realization that they might not all make it through this transition, because this is hard, right? Especially considering it's not what they're hired to do, and it might not be what they want to do or what they're passionate about.
And do you have any advice for how to work with the sales reps to ask them to give up kind of that control of the client ownership? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Sales are innately driven by their compensation. So if you pull certain things from them, they will stop caring about it. I know that sounds terrible, but it's like if you suddenly just say like you're not going to be able to receive this level of compensation, they'll back off. That is hard to do because they might say to you, if you pull that, then I can't meet this number or that, and you're going to have to manage around that, and that's where sales leadership is going to have to manage around that. This transition also will have attrition, right? You will have sales reps that are like, well, if they're going to take that business, then what good or how am I going to be able to close anymore? Focus on compensation first, I guess, is my first advice for you. Have you spoken with like the sales managers and the sales leadership? Where's their heads on it too? Because a lot of times they're the ones, they're the captain over the ship. Like, how do we now coach the team to move them in a different direction? Those two things I would focus on first, and then, after that, maybe some prayers.
I'll add maybe a little bit to that. We at Omniture, when I was running the group at Omniture, we used to tell our CSMs to build what we called Omnicred. It was a concept like street cred. And the concept was deliver value to your sales reps that you're collaborating with. Take ownership of the accounts, proactively update them, don't let them be blindsided, and be their best lead generation source initially. Because as soon as they see that you have ownership and they can make money without, then they'll start to open up and they'll collaborate and they'll trust you. So I'd say those are develop your own Omnicred.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Any other questions?
Hey, Dave, do you mind if I follow up on the first question really quick?
Please.
So one thing that we have done, so we've invited customers, handpicked, these are the people who are most active in our online community. We paid for them to come to the office. We put them up in a hotel. We fed them. And then we gave them a portion of our development roadmap. So we said, hey, you've got 120 sprints to work with. And we had a curated list of things that then they could prioritize. And so they left that experience feeling like they had an impact, and they got to choose what we worked on. Now, of the total, it was only a small percentage, 15% of our total development output. But they left having that, here's my 100,000-mile travel line experience, right? I breeze right through. I get to determine what the company works on. So if you have that kind of relationship with product and engineering, that could be really powerful.
Question over here.
Yeah, so as we've built out our customer success program, we've tried to align the customer success team with the sales team. And our sales guys are very coin operated, and they want to just make money. So we have changed the compensation model a little bit so that they make money off of upsells and things like that. But as far as the other direction goes, a couple of you spoke about aligning earlier in the sales process, the customer success team and the sales team. And although they support that on paper, we get a lot of pushback, even from senior management, that by bringing in another step into the sales process or bringing in customer success people, it'll delay the sale. And for a bunch of coin-operated people, that's not very attractive to them.
It shouldn't delay the sale. I mean, if you've defined the process, it should not delay the sale. If anything, it should improve it and speed it up, right? Because now you're suddenly dealing with a very educated customer coming through the sales process. But having that dialogue, I think, can be tricky just because you have to get away from what you just talked through and get more for the benefits, I think. If that's possible, we can talk a little more about that. But if you can move away from the coin operation of it, move away from it, what the cons of doing it, what truly are the benefits, and then go to your team and say, like, hey, how about we implement this for 30 days? If we see sales cycles go down, then let's reevaluate it. Let's implement it for 60 days. Like, they've got to give you something to where you can at least do it, and then really hone your process. Really hone your process around how customer success comes in and when, and really what are they trying to move forward in each call. And then you should hopefully be able to get some buy-in from an executive team to do that.
Yeah, if it's lengthening the sales process, you're doing it wrong.
Correct.
And you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? So do it for the customer, do it for the business. Don't do it because somebody at an event like this told you that you needed to. Customers are worried about their onboarding experience. That's a great reason to get CS involved pre-sales.
And it's really an impression thing. It hasn't been extending the sales cycle, but they see it as we're adding another step before closing. And they've just, and our program is very new, so it's still evolving, but they've had a lot of pushback on adding more people into the sales process, and we're trying to change their opinion of that. And I was just wondering if you had any advice on how to change the thought process of the sales leadership when they're so focused on, you know, getting the deal closed this quarter or something like that.
Well, we ran into that early, you know, our sales process is lengthy. You know, it's usually 6 to 9 months, and so making that any longer is something that makes them very anxious, you know. But we did hear that we don't want to lengthen an already lengthy process. How we got over that was one success story. And that success story then was preached out to the rest of the sales team, and it was never an exception again. You know, because they found that, that's not a founded worry.
Thank you.
Question right here with Shane.
Thanks, everyone. One of the speakers yesterday alluded to when CSMs get relegated to just kind of the admin and they lose contact with the executive sponsor. And I can certainly resonate with that. And I'm wondering, what do you do to ensure that your CSMs maintain contact with the business stakeholders and that relationship really continues to thrive so that we can still have access to them?
So I believe that you've got to do EBRs, executive business reviews. They don't necessarily need to be quarterly, but you've got to have on a regular cadence contact with the executive, and you need to know what they care about, right? So it's not about you, it's not about how successful you're being with their account. It's about what their vision is, what their goal is, and making sure that you're showing progress to that goal so that the executive gets value out of that interaction. Otherwise, you'll get relegated every time.
Yeah, executives love when you can prove value to them, right? Like, they're very busy. As soon as you can show, hey, I'm bringing value to the table, and any interaction that you can have to prove that, whether that's the quarterly review or a one-on-one conversation, right? Like, you can show them metrics, you can show them data, how you're pushing things forward, and it aligns to business value, then, I mean, that's a great conversation for an executive.
We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Any out here? Okay, we have 2 more. Let's take both of those and.
All right, so thinking about internal partnerships, I'm at Workfront, so we're a little bit further along in the process with our customer success group, but we still need to work on internal partnerships with the different departments. So I'm wondering, with you guys, what are the things that would make you want to partner with the CS organization? What are what are the things that matter to you? What are the metrics that you really want to look at? So what are the things that a CS leader can bring to you to help prove that, hey, this partnership is going to be beneficial for you?
I mean, sales is somewhat easy. I mean, help me close more business, right?
Yeah.
And that can be through client references, that can be through testimonials, that can be through, like we talked about, having a clearer definition of what the ideal customer profile is and then helping me change it as that evolves. Because then I can even go back to marketing. We don't have a marketing seat here, but you can go back to marketing and then they can help you acquire that. Having that true voice of the customer back to sales, I think is critical. And I really like what Dave said is if sales teams know where the customers are that they sold and they feel engaged in that, and that they feel that you're bringing back and giving them customers that they can even use as referrals down the road or get more customers, I mean, that's, I think, a really good way to partner with sales.
You're my lifeblood to doing my job well. And so if product doesn't want to interface with you and with the client, then that's a very candid conversation that you should have with your product leader, because that needs to be resolved very quickly. Like I can't do my job well without all of you doing your jobs well.
I would just go back to don't grind the gears. Kindness begets kindness, partnership begets partnership. So figure out what they need, help them accomplish that. They will in turn help you accomplish your goals.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Burke, we have one more in the back.
Thanks for taking the question. I have to admit, I've made jokes about salespeople being coin-operated myself in the past, and yet I find myself reacting negatively to that comment. And as if any of us is truly, quote-unquote, coin-operated. So I just wonder if you can speak to the way you, I guess, incent and reward people that taps into some, deeper human ambitions, along the lines of, the drive stuff or anything like that. Anybody be willing to speak to that?
I'd like to take a stab. I think they really are coin-operated. If you're not hiring coin-operated salespeople, you've got the wrong profile. And it may be offensive to CS people who really resonate with the making the world a better place, right? Improving lives, improving the experience. Salespeople love being paraded across the stage and being told that they're salesperson of the year, or getting $1 million paycheck because they landed a monster of a deal.
One of my favorite hiring processes with one of our sales leadership is, he was on his way to the mountains to go hunt elk. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, tell me more about this. And he's like, if you know one thing about me, it's that I'm a hunter. And I will go and I will win the prize. And to me, that's salespeople. That just, I was like, I've never had a more telling, interaction than I will always have with all salespeople. And that's what it's about, whether it's coin operated or it's about, getting that elk at the end of the day. Like, they want to conquer, they want to win. And I don't think it's negative at all. That's just what motivates them. Behind that, a strong vision for why they want to take down that elk never hurts, right? Like, to just sell for sales' sake might get old, but it's that conquering, it's that winning that I see driving salespeople, and I don't think that that's a bad thing.
I don't have anything to add to that. They came to the rescue, so I'm good.
Actually, one quick follow-up, and this goes to the partnership between sales and CS. Our sales leader constantly talks about that the way you do it is more important than what you do, right? And so as I invite him to recognize the CS group, he invites me in to talk about customer experience. And so we try to infuse some of that inspiration and some of that more touchy, feel-good kind of stuff. And I think it has an impact. I don't think it's the primary driver, though.
Great, thank you. Want to just go down, just do your final advice to these CS100 leaders. From your perspective, from your functional group, from your experience, what would be your parting advice for these leaders? Rose?
I feel like I gave a lot of that thoughts and advice. What else? So, echoing on the being bold, coming to the table, because you deserve to be there. I would also say, and we're kind of hearing that, customer success is very much a glue that holds so much of the organization together. So don't forget that. Like, so when you have those moments of sales and product or operational or marketing, or don't forget that if anyone can drive the organization around something, it is you. And I've seen that happen time and time again when a customer success leader comes to the table and says, this is, and you're like, wow, okay, and everyone champions around that. So just don't forget that you're really the heart of so many organizations, and that it is you that we depend on to keep that heart and to ask a lot of the tough questions.
I would say you have one of the hardest jobs, but that can help the business in a way that you shouldn't let the hardness of the job diminish the value that you can provide to the organization. There was a time that we went through earlier on where a lot of our CX reps were getting worn down with the conversations that they were having, and they weren't feeling heard. And as I met with our CX leadership, he expressed that to me, and I said, well, why haven't they talked to me? Like, I wasn't aware of this. And so don't let the hardness of your job drive you down. Instead, let it enable you to go have the right conversations and therefore drive the business.
For me, it's just about understanding the machine. What is your business trying to accomplish? What are their strategic objectives? And help grease the skids, reduce the friction, right? Make that possible, be an enabler, be collaborative, be a partner to your peers. That's what is ultimately going to make you and your company successful.
Great. Thank you, Rose and Kat and Mitch. Appreciate your thought leadership, your perspective, and sharing that with all of us today. Thank you very much.